Hey, good afternoon. Kathy Beatty here with Divorce Support Anonymous, coming to you with a breakthrough through Christmas. How do we get a breakthrough through Christmas? As I stated yesterday, today's only day 2, so if you're jumping on now, it's a good time to be involved. If you're interested in getting this little workbook, my journal and journey for a breakthrough Christmas, how to have a breakthrough Christmas, just let me know and we will get that to you. Topic today I want to talk about is dread. Before I do that, I want to state something else before we get into dread. I want to define breakthrough. I want to ask you the question, what does breakthrough mean for you? Where do you need a breakthrough? Is it financially? Is it emotionally? Is it spiritually? Is it physically? Where do you need that breakthrough? And then to visualize and ask yourself the question and to write down, whether it's in this workbook or just a pad of paper, a journal that you keep, what would a breakthrough look like for me? What would it look like? What would that physical breakthrough look like? That emotional breakthrough look like? That spiritual breakthrough? What would it look like? And can we begin today to start chipping away little bit by little bit to get to where we can have a breakthrough? So that's the question. That's the question that we're asking. So let's talk about dread. And dread may be something that you are feeling right now as you hear the Christmas music, you see the lights. You may be dreading this Christmas season, the month of December. I'm sure you're not dreading 2020 being over with because it's been such a difficult year for so many of us, but you may be actually looking at the season and dreading the season. So it's easy for us, if we are in the middle of a trauma, to dread it, to want to escape, to not want to be part of the Christmas season. I'm going to ask of you that you would examine the dread and the emotions that you're feeling, not deny them, but to examine them, to look at them carefully, to write them down, to try to explain to yourself or to a confidant or a friend how you are feeling. What are you dreading? And when we do that, when we can articulate it, when we put it down, it just removes some of the power from it. So it's important for us to understand, what am I really dreading here? What's going on inside of me that I'm dreading this Christmas season? Am I grieving? Am I so angry? Am I so depressed and sad because it's not going to be a Christmas like any other if it's your first one after divorce? But as we begin to understand these feelings of dread, then we can begin to counter them, to find remedy for them. Because we don't want to go through the whole season with dread. Yes, it's going to be different, but we want to find enjoyment. So as you're exploring the dread that you may be feeling, ask yourself, be curious about, what is this dread that I'm feeling? And maybe it's the dread of not having the finances to get the gifts that you once were able to purchase for your children and friends and family. What is that dread, to understand it? I read a story today, in fact, this morning, as I was exploring more things to share with you. And I read a story about Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, an old poet that lived back in the 1800s, that if you had a literature class in high school, as I did, you read some of his work. Well, I didn't realize that he wrote the poem, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. It's fascinating to explore his story, because that beautiful song came out of his pain. He had a tragic death of his first wife, who passed away, and he was grieving immensely. And then he had a son who went off to Civil War, and came back lame, nearly paralyzed from being injured through the war. And as Christmas came, he became very depressed. And after his wife had passed away and his son came back injured from war, he went to his journal. He was a frequent journaler, a writer. Makes sense, right? And he stared at that blank page and he couldn't find anything to write. Every day of his life he journaled, but on this particular day, he could not find anything to write. And he stared at that blank page. And then what he did is he picked up his pen and he wrote, "I heard the bells on Christmas Day." Imagine that. That beautiful carol that has lasted all of these decades came from a source of pain and of somewhat hopelessness. Now, why do I tell you that story? Because he dreaded, and he did journal years previously that he dreaded Christmas. And he wanted happy Christmas, Merry Christmas for everyone, but he knew that he would never experience it. And yet this Christmas, after those events, he stared at that page. And what he wrote was profound and beautiful and inspiring. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play. Read the words of that hymn, and it's really easy. Just go Google the words of "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day." That beautiful music, that beautiful poem, someone else put it to music, that beautiful poem came from his pain, his dread. I'm telling you that story because out of your dread, when you explore it, when you are honest with yourself about how you're feeling, can come something beautiful that inspires others, that inspires your children, that inspires you. So I love this verse, and I refer to it and I mention it many times as I coach individuals, as I have support groups. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. God comes near. It is a sacred time. That dread, that sadness is a sacred time in which poems and beauty can come out of. Look at your dread. Be honest with it. And find that it's not an enemy at all, but it's a way for you to experience, to revise Christmas, to turn that dread around, to find gratitude and joy during this Christmas season.